Hey everybody, Breakthrough Health and Life Coach Glenn Hattem here. I am here with the Nutrition Chef Alex Fioroni. Did I say that right? That's the best way to say that.
Well, kind of. That was like if I owned a restaurant, they said it like that. Fioroni.
Well,
Yeah, it's like a macaroni, pepperoni, Fioroni. Yeah, because people usually say Fiorini for some reason.
Fioroni, yeah. Well,
I
you
don't know why
definitely
they
should
do.
have a restaurant, and I foresee that at some point. I know it's been on your mind at different times throughout your career. But
Yes.
Alex is a unique individual, someone that's had a tremendous impact on myself. And gosh, early on when we first met, had a tremendous impact on my clients. And I think still quite a bit of your knowledge at such a young age it still seeps through me with my clients and how I'm able to impact them and get the kind of results that I get. I would have to say, Alex, you had a tremendous impact on me from not just a nutritional standpoint, but just as a father of how many?
Eight.
Eight. Folks, get that. Eight. Grown. But maybe Alex, we'll start the conversation by introducing yourself. Tell a little bit about what you're up to these days, where you're located, and then we're going to just take a trip back in time to kind of how we met or how you got started on this path. And I think there's a lot of hopefully people have their notepads out, pens handy, because there's going to be a bunch of nuggets of wisdom shared and imparted today. So
that's the best part of today's conversation is people getting those nuggets and utilizing them to change their life. So I'm excited to do that. But yes, I'm Alex Fioroni or Alexander Fioroni. I go more by Alexander now because my identical twin boys are Alex and Xander. So each of them has half of my name. So now when we're at a sporting event, and I'm coaching two of them, you got Alex and Xander, and then everyone calls me Alexander. Otherwise, it's usually
that's right.
But yeah. But known as the Nutrition Chef nationwide. Been doing this for over 20 years. I love what I do. I love more what I do now, even than I did when I first started back in 1999, 98, 99. And I've been through a lot of different changes within the business, but my philosophy and what I do has stayed the same. I've always been a big believer in creating a platform for what I do that's going to better someone's lifestyle for a lifetime rather than a short time. So everything I do, every philosophy I teach, and every product that I create is based off of performance that's going to change someone's life and prevent the onset of aging and disease. It's kind of something that I got really excited about when I was young, that we can do things to prevent bad things from happening with our health. And also I always love the idea of, what's the point of working so hard and living such a long life, and at the end when we retire, don't have our health. That didn't make any sense to me when I was young. And so it made me passionate with some of these guys that were my age. I remember back when I was in Marin County, being so young and talking to guys my age now, we're almost 50. And they're like, hey, whoa, you're like an old soul. You're telling me to do things that you're doing that I don't even do yet. You're too young to be that healthy, But
it's amazing how that's kind of come full circle to where you becoming busy in life and going like, oh, wow, I can see how they got off.
Exactly.
It's like,
with the 8 children,
exactly.
Well, I try and be Superman. It's my downfall.
Yeah.
But and then so make a long story short, I started off with being a personal trainer, and an enthusiast with exercise. When I found love with the idea of bodybuilding, but natural bodybuilding, only because Arnold Schwarzenegger was one of those people I kind of looked up to, and Sylvester Stallone as a kid, because I watched a lot of action movies. And what I loved was I read their autobiographies at a young age. So it wasn't really the fact that I liked to plaster their muscular bodies on the wall and be that big. It was more of the success-driven aspect of those two people, which if you look at them today, they're extremely successful outside of bodybuilding.
Yeah,
and that's what really
different from folks.
But they had. I really was motivated by that at a young age. And I read it was an unauthorized autobiography of Arnold Schwarzenegger. I read it at 17 years old. I read that book, It was a story of him, and I read a book, an autobiography. So I read on Sylvester Stallone. So I read these autobiographies very young, and what I grabbed from them was that tenacity that they have in their personality, that charisma, that the go-getter. And so that's what kind of got me to the bodybuilding, to want to do a competition.
Yeah.
And
I remember those pictures back in the days.
yeah, and I was
incredible
really
physique at like, how old
yeah.
were you in that? I mean, you were young.
I was 21. Yeah, I was
21
in
looked
the.
amazing. So
And everyone, it's funny because everyone used to tell me that. They said, you have so much muscle maturity for your age. And I look back, I equate it because of the nutrition, because I was doing things that most people weren't doing
right.
behind the scenes when it came to food. And obviously too, I trained like a madman, as we know, we used to work out together.
Yeah.
And so, working out to me was a philosophy of, if you're spending this time in the gym, you got to spend it properly and not waste any time. So, and when you're learning exercise science and being so passionate and learning about muscle threshold, and you figure out, okay, in order to gain muscle, you have to pass a certain threshold. And if you can withstand that threshold longer, even if it's painful, you're going to get more results. So I ended up loving pain because at the end you get the pleasure. It's almost Arnold Schwarzenegger in his Pumping Iron video when he talks about the muscle pump.
You start, start counting reps, pain begins.
Exactly. So I think I had that same.
You probably seen me doing my hundreds lately. You're like,
oh, there's
another masochist that loves pain right there.
It is. But I think because it's like a marathon runner too. It's like anybody that's athletic, bodybuilding, any sport. It is a mindset. It's an athletic mindset to be able to have a zen in that pain, and I think I got that at a very young age because I really wanted to achieve a lot. I really was motivated to achieve. I didn't want to be a professional bodybuilder. It was more about just to set the goal. I actually had a journal when I was young. I was 15 years old. I wrote my goals, year 5 year, 10 year. I was really very old soul when I look back, because I look at my kids now, none of them are doing that. They want to be on TikTok or, social media. But yeah, so at 15, one of my goals was to just be on stage, just to compete, just to know that I did it. It wasn't about being a professional bodybuilder, because I did get the right advice in my early training careers on how there was no money in that sport. It actually wasn't a healthy sport. Most of these guys aren't even healthy. You don't do healthy things to get in that shape. There's a lot of drugs involved, steroids, that. So I got a lot of education that way, but to me, it wasn't about that. I wanted to prove to the world that you could do it without steroids, and that you could do it through hard work and nutrition. So that was my whole model of getting to that stage. And
then I think that's where you and I clicked on our friendship. Both
yes,
very hard workers.
Hard working.
We operated at a much higher level than most people do.
Didn't want to cut. We're not cut corners when it comes to training, because it's really what steroids and all that stuff is, and is you're cutting corners. You're manipulating your God-given genetics, to try and create something else. And as I got into nutrition and psychology of food, a lot of it is body dysmorphia. People that get stuck onto that. As they look at their body in the mirror, and no matter how big they are, it's not big enough. And that's a disorder. It's nothing to do with anything with training and being healthy, and having great strength and good joints. It's like that philosophy is not in their mind. It's all about how big can I get? How many people can look at me in the gym? That's body dysmorphia.
And I even had kind of like the reverse of that, of like, my mother was morbidly obese, my sister as well overweight, and health was just not in my household. It was outside of my household.
Me too. Me too. Both my brothers were struggled with weight their whole life. My youngest brother, was 5 years younger, struggled with his weight his whole life. I was like, everyone when I was meeting me, I think I was adopted, but it's because I lived a totally different lifestyle. It's probably you did too, and as we get older now, we see that even more.
I think you and I are just so impacted by these coaches and sports we got involved with at a young age. I mean, I was in speedos on swim teams, with Olympic medalists as a gold medalist as my coach, when I was like 6 or 7, having to hop in an ice cold pool for early morning practices at 6 a.m. I think it was. So.
Yeah, it's like certain life experiences we had got us really enthusiastic about wanting to take on the career of health and fitness, for sure.
Yeah, you were a hardcore hockey guy, and now you're your two sons play hockey, so
they do with hockey and lacrosse. And unfortunately, with hockey, it was great. I was all-star team. My dad had me on the skates at the age of 2. He was a very famous coach in Canada. He was known to, so you can see the philosophy of how the parenting skills that I was brought up with. My dad, he was the type of person that could take a team that was in last place for 13 years and then take that team and bring them to the gold medal with coaching techniques, because he was like, when I was 17 to 21, he was really empowered with Stephen Covey and the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, that whole philosophy of being proactive. And I would read the books at a young age. I really gravitated to those books, at that, which really kind of intertwined a lot. So my motivation as a young entrepreneur.
Yeah, you and I are both very much into personal development, almost to like extreme length. So it's only grown worse throughout the years.
Well, I think what happens when you do that, sometimes you forget to do it on yourself. It's like you're doing it for everybody else, and then sometimes we get left out, and then but we catch up. But it's true. Yeah, we both have been really intuitive into that and pulling those concepts into health and fitness, which is great. And I think that's why you're so successful as well, is because this knowledge of nutrition and training has been around for centuries. What makes somebody different when they're coaching somebody with exercise and nutrition is the way they deliver it, the passion behind it, how much they believe in it, what they look like too. I mean, nobody wants to work out with somebody who's not in shape. I would hope so anyway.
Yeah, you and I are the guys that kind of like, you got an overweight doctor telling you how to live, and you're like, I'm not gonna.
And I saw that. I saw that at a very young age, and it actually, when I look back, it made me kind of cocky and arrogant, not in a negative way, but in a way that sometimes I had to watch my mouth around doctors, because when you grow up seeing that, the whole Western medicine is based off quick fix and instant gratification and band-aiding an issue. And I would get offended because I would be like, you have so much power with that white lab coat on. This is nothing against doctors. I work with a ton of doctors. I have the utmost respect for them because they have an education that I don't have. But I always thought that the two could work together, and that they should have somewhat of the knowledge I have, so that they could have somebody in front of them that doesn't need medication, just needs a little lifestyle guidance.
But how much nutritional education do most doctors get?
Yeah, they get 10 minutes in 7 years of Harvard. Doctors themselves have told me that. They told me that. They said, and that's where I've had a great respect for relationship with some of the doctors that I've worked with, because they can't do what I do, and I can't do what they do. And so if you can work together with a client like who's got cancer, who's got type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, I mean, they've seen me, I've worked with some of their clients where I've gotten them off 7 types of different types of medication just through weight loss and better eating. So it's like,
is that amazing?
The proof is in the pudding. Yeah.
Yeah. Me and you, I mean, like even during like COVID times, it's just like, well, if you lock everybody up and take away their gym and tell them not to be outside breathing the air with each other.
Let's make sure we keep tobacco sales going and alcohol sales going. No problem. Yeah. We'll keep Costco open.
Those things we're through the
roof. We'll have a lineup at Costco and in Walmart, but yeah, let's keep the sanctuaries that get rid of toxins and increase circulation. Let's close them down. It doesn't make any sense. But again, that coincides with the leadership of that industry, which is the pharmaceutical industry. That's what leads.
I grew up with my mother as a pharmacist, so I was always sick. If I coughed or sneezed, 20 of these pills, antibiotics.
And again, pharmaceuticals are great. They're just abused. I mean, pharmaceuticals there's people that do need them, but there's a lot of people that don't. You know what I mean? I think it's like an 80-20 thing where 80% of people don't, 20% do. And so it's a balance.
The pharmaceutical is the back end side. I mean, it's like you screwed up on the front end side with your self-care.
Exactly. Yeah, and a lot of times the pharmaceuticals, they create more issues with people because there's so many side effects that happens during someone's drug intake with whatever ailment they're trying to fix. And the number 2 organs that get destroyed through any medication is your kidneys and liver, which is the powerhouse to helping to strengthen the rest of the body. So if somebody's trying to lose weight or to get healthier and they're taking all those medications that's deteriorating the 2 organs that are going to help generate that process, it's like it's not helping at all, but it's a scare tactic too. A lot of people are scared to go off medication because the way that the Western medicine makes them feel that if you don't do this, you're gonna get worse. But there's so many people that in our industry, and you probably met that, where the testimonies come where they go the opposite, and they get off the drugs, they change their lifestyle, and they become a whole different person healthier, stronger, more aware, sharper. And then it's kind of like the curtain opens up and like, wow, I can't believe I was about to go down that road of just taking drugs for the rest of my life, and then just really getting worse.
I'd love to talk about the road, because I think you and I, it was for both of us at a very early age, we were off to the races. Like I'm just gonna.
Oh yeah, when you look back how young we are, because now being a dad too, kids that were our age, we were ahead of our times.
Way ahead of our times. I mean, I think when I met you, I just opened up an office in a club that had about a 5,000 member base, not in Centerville, and
but you were like me. You had your program. You had a set. It's like the transformation thing.
Trainers working for me, with my transformations program, and like, gosh, I was working. I think when like you and I had such tremendous success right out the gates because we were onto something outside the. We were all about being outside
the norm.
Yeah.
And it's because it goes back to the principles that you spoke about that you stick to, which is the best. Both of us had those same philosophies and principles, is that anybody that walks into my arms, into my world, I want them to get the best results. And I think because of it, and that's what was kind of missing, I think, in that industry back then, because it was just very, very blasé, very, all the gyms were the same, like the trainers that had the crash course. And no, I think
the mentality was definitely very. I was like, even when I came in, I was like, you know what? I'm a fitness and nutrition lifestyle expert, and I'm going to take care of my clients and get the results they want. And I know mathematically what it takes. And I put you in front of my clients early on because I wanted to get greater results with my clients. And having, you not only would do the food delivery, but you would also come in and show them how to make their personalized recipe book.
That's right.
I mean, I even remember mine having the incredible pancakes and some of the other yummy treats and stuff, along with there were healthy versions. But I just remember how empowered I was in my kitchen and at the grocery.
It's because I was taking my own personal experiences and basically duplicating them, and it's funny. I think because our mentality was, when somebody comes to me, I don't want them to have to go see anybody else, because that's how good we were, and I think that's what we were trying to do. And to go back to your original question about my journey. So the bodybuilding, I ended up doing that, and I ended up competing. I did like 3 or 4 different competitions. I came second in my first one. There was a national one I did in Vancouver, British Columbia. That was a pre-qualifier for the Olympics. If I would have became first or second, I would have went to the Olympics. I came third. So that was my last one. And the reason why it was my last one is actually in my weight, because my height is very rare for bodybuilding too. I'm 6'2", so it's a lot different when you're on stage with these guys. They're like 5'7", 5'8". It's a whole, because they just look bigger on stage because they're shorter. But the long story short,
so
they had to do different categories, and sometimes they would do weight categories, and sometimes they do height. So this national competition, it was height, not weight, which I like better. And then all of a sudden I found out that there was only 2 of us in my category. I said, "Oh my God, I'm going to the Olympics. This is awesome." And for this competition, you had to do both a polygraph test before the competition that you were drug free, and they had to do a urine test immediately off stage to make sure you didn't have any steroids in your system. And so the day of the show, this third guy registers because he got wind that the guy coming from the United States that does the drug testing couldn't get through the border and wasn't going to be there that day. So obviously you could tell that you just can tell between a natural and steroid. There's, even at a young age, you can tell. And so anyway, he joined. He ended up getting like first. Yeah, and the other guy second, me third. But between that and some of the other experiences I started having in the bodybuilding industry, and when you're backstage getting your pump on, watching me and all these like healthy things, that I was doing. I didn't do the carb loading, carb depletion, all these extreme things that bodybuilders did. I did a more scientific approach with the glycemic index and cutting out sodium a week before and playing with herbs and diuretics, to get the water out before, just like very natural. And watching guys drink wine and eat like M&Ms and do all these things to spike their veins. And it just dawned on me, everything that I had heard from other people that I grew up with, how unhealthy the sport really was.
Yeah, nothing about this is healthy.
Yeah, and like, to me, it was about showing the physical augmentation of your hard work and your health.
Maybe that last
how I
leg of
saw it.
competition is the unhealthy part.
And maybe if I had the passion, I probably could have went and started my own federation and made that the particular ways to compete. You have to show us somehow scientifically. We'd have to prove it that you have an amazing, natural, healthy diet and hardcore training, and let's see what happens to your body. But unfortunately, that the sport, anything that's corrupt, is because it started corrupt, right? A lot of times. And so it's very hard to change something that's corrupt. And so steroids are just part of the game, and everybody knows that. And doesn't mean these guys aren't working hard, but it is just a different ball game. And unfortunately, steroids have you look at a lot of these guys that when they get older, they're not very healthy, and the whole point of working out and augmenting your body and getting your heart going and circulation is so that we have stronger joints when we're older, not weaker joints. We're just, our immune system is stronger, our digestive system is clean because we've been putting such great food in it for 20 to 30 years. And so that's the part that I saw younger on that I wanted to be part of. I wanted to be part of that.
Yeah. So you're now taking an immediate detour of like, I've seen.
But the part that I grabbed from the bodybuilding was that when you stick to something, you get results, because the discipline that it took to get in that kind of shape for the stage, whether it was my way or other people's way, it takes a lot of discipline. Whether, even if you are, doing other things that are enhancing your body physically, you still have to be a very disciplined person. So that part I really loved and grabbed, and that gave me more confidence when I was later on to coach and teach people that you just got to stick to this. You got to stick to this new lifestyle. You can't give up, which again goes against the instant gratification and quick fix that the medical industry is pushing on us as a society. So it's very hard to convince people that, hey, this might take a year, this might take 6 months,
and everybody wants it in like 6 weeks or 8 weeks.
They want it 6 weeks. Yeah.
And you and I know, coming into the industry with this like surge of like, I'm going to speak this truth, no fluff, no baloney. And
transparency.
And then quickly, we learned, because we had, I was working with a lot of billionaires and high profile corporate execs and famous celebrities.
Yeah, we both were.
Yeah.
We boboth were.
Yeah. And then, you as well. And we're like, they got the money, but they, the heart, was not there often. It was like, oh, Glenn or Alex is going to come in here and fix things. Like,
yeah,
no, we're actually here to just kind of like, here's the mirror,
Yeah.
Here, there's a bigger project here. I always
exactly.
People think they're treating projects like tasks, and really to reroute somebody.
Well, and it's easy to ignore your body and your health because the brain and the ego and adrenaline can be very powerful.
Right.
And especially for powerful men that are wealthy, is that they're in control of so much in their life that sometimes the one thing they're not in control of is their health, and they don't realize it until they meet someone like me and you. So, which makes the package for them even that much better, because if they get healthier and they feel better, they're just going to be more successful, right?
Yeah, maybe let's, this is a slippery conversation here, but let's share. I mean, you and I have had a number of rises and falls in our career. We've had enormous success, and we've got our asses handed to like 10 times over. And that's where the growth and the learning and the new possibilities are born, and then
life
it falls off. Yeah. But maybe share a little bit more about this aspect of your path where, I watched, we've been friends for, it's been a couple decades now. But I've, every time we reconnect, it was like, wow, we're both been like moved by some serious waves, whether through relationship dynamic challenges, through your raising kids and then dealing with exes and then getting, share maybe a little bit about like just part, I've had those experiences where I've brought a number of people onto my team and I've had to let people go. And there have been challenges with partnerships that you've experienced where it's like, oh man, I didn't realize like people could go to these lengths.
Yeah.
And they've had impact on our own health and well-being and the choices we're making. Like, there's been a few moments for us in our lives where we're like, how the F did all my choices compound, and here I've arrived, and I'm so ignorant to the fact that like I'm not getting away with this shit. I'm just like my clients. I'm susceptible like they are to
Exactly.
the overwhelm of life. And
well, I think that's because we started in our 20s, right? Which is when the age of we were unstoppable. We don't really think too much. We just keep going forward. You don't really, you live in the moment, but really you're just striving for the future. I think that zone that if I look back, you probably agree with me from those 20 from 20 to 30, and then all of a sudden, whatever happens when you end up getting in a relationship or your business, like me, got to the point where it exploded so much that I needed a partner because it was too big to handle on my own. And then, choosing, I look back and I was very naive, to be quite honest. When I look back now that I have an incredible wife of 15 years, that is the complete opposite of me when it comes to business relationships, and being the bulldog to be able to just say no, or to not be the yes person all the time, or to know that person's not a good person, instead of me always thinking that everybody's a good person, and even if they're bad,
you and I have that same issue of like,
yeah, even if
see the
they're
glass half full on everyone,
even
everyone's
if
got potential.
if they're bad, exactly. And that was, I look back, that was a weakness on my part. It's more of a naiveness too, because
It's like that having an ideal, but also like you need to actually see what you actually see, because you actually do see those things. You're ignoring that. You're ignoring them because you have these ideals of how you want the world to be.
Exactly. But it's funny because going through all that, the one thing that was able to keep probably both of us centered is the gift of fitness and nutrition, because we always had that to go back to, or to keep us balanced. And I think that's what's carried us forward, is because there's so much mental balance and growth when fitness and health is part of your life, whether whatever else is going on in the background. And I think that's why I'm even more passionate about that now at my age, because it helped me get through some pretty dark times as well.
Can you share a little bit about those dark times? Because I think all of us live those things a little bit more
anybody,
privately.
like anybody that doesn't know me, even watching this video, would look at me and think, always looked at my looks and the way I look, and probably really confident and all that. But I actually grew up with a lot of anxiety, panic attacks, massive anxiety, panic attacks. Didn't know what they were really growing up as a kid. But now I know what they were. They were manic anxiety attacks, social anxiety. I had really bad social anxiety. And I wasn't a really big drinker when I was younger. I was more of a partier, work hard, play hard kind of a guy, because training was such a big part of my regimen. So I didn't want it to interfere, but definitely when the weekends came, it was, I took it to levels that people probably only do in Las Vegas, and that was my reputation. And I think because of my insecurities and anxieties, you latch on to things that the attention people give you. And the attention people give me was, Alex is an ogre when he parties. Like, if you want to party, you party with Alex. You want to go for a couple of days, you party with Alex. And at the same time too, I was also a fighter. I was the one that had no problem. Again, people meet me now very calm, collective, very monotone, and but there was a lot of anger. I grew up a lot of anger because of my parents' divorce, being the oldest of 6 and very close to my mom, and just I harnessed a lot of anger towards my father, which would come out when I drank, more so. And you would use it as a young kid as a way for me to just release, but at the same time, I got attention when it happened. So I started gravitating to, now when I look back, to things that maybe on the surface look like fun, or to be the cool, badass guy that could scrap and could drink anybody on the table, but it was killing me inside without even knowing it. And over the years, I look back at some of the mistakes that probably hurt my business and my career more, was from that lifestyle. That lifestyle of just taking the wheels off, and
Talk
self
about having to have like a secret double life, man.
yes, like self-loathing. It is selfish. It's all about self, but at the same time, an addiction, you don't realize that when you have an addiction. You don't realize it's an addiction until you finally realize it's an addiction.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll be 4 years sober just this past February, you know, which took a
Great.
lot of times, to quit. And everyone has a different relationship with alcohol. Mine was the what they call the binge drinker, you know, and which is more harder on your body than someone who's drinking small amounts every day. And because I was so healthy too, I think it was that much harder on my body because my body was not used to such toxins. It's used to being so healthy. And so, and what happened is that was probably the other part of that psychosis for me, was to be an expert in the field and to sit across and help people that had these issues and fix them. Well, me myself wasn't admitting that I had the same issue.
Yeah. So
That
speak to that because a
that
lot of people.
slowly, yeah, that slowly started burying that fun, passionate Alex that created the company that I have today, because I never would want to be that person that didn't live what he taught, you know. But then people would say, no, you got to separate it. It's like a psychologist, you know, sees a therapist. A psychologist is a therapist, and he doesn't bring it home. But, you know, I would have the wrong people in my life give me the advice. No, it's, you know, drinking's okay because, you know, you're not working right now. But for me, it wasn't. It really inflicted my my core, you know, my core spiritual growth, and probably too because it reminded me of a lot of the bad demons too that came out when I drank when I was younger. Because that always something bad always happened when I drank, always from anger, you know. And so whether it was
Alex, so a lot of people sometimes think alcohol, it's the bad, you know, alcohol is bad for you, or marijuana is bad for you, or porn, or all these different things, or being a workaholic. But it's really coming down to, you know, it's just that's the drug of choice. But the issue is, like, there was a part of yourself that you're running from, a part of yourself that wasn't getting attention.
Exactly. And I think
speak to
a
that.
lot of times people's stress and anxiety comes from running from that person, especially when you are trying to be that kind of person that you're trying to be the best version of yourself. You know what I mean? And I think, and I equate a lot of that to my wife. You know, it's a perfect example of her meeting me. And when you meet somebody, what do? You give the best version of yourself the first couple of months, right? Or hopefully longer than that. But, you know, but in a serious note, you know, when you meet somebody, you know, you really try and give them, you know, so that best part of yourself. And I have a wife who always wanted me to be that best part of myself. And so when she first saw what drinking did to me, she was blown away, you know, blown away. Because to me, it was like, she was a mom of 5 children, and even gets me a little emotional. You know, being a mom of 5 children, and here's someone like me, who she thinks is Superman flying in, but has, you know, illnesses with alcohol. And she had just divorced someone who was a raging alcoholic.
Yeah, and you're hiding
so, and I'm hiding, not knowing it though. Not, I mean, later on, as you start to realize that this habit really is a disease, and it's something that just genetically you just can't do, because it turns you into somebody you're not. Because I think that's what it is. It's alcohol aggravates people's body. That's why we hear the word hangover. People make fun of it, like it's fun to be hungover. It's a common word, but you're hungover because it's complete poison in your body, has ripped your body apart, and now it's got to get fixed. And that's where you heal from the hangover. So a lot of times you don't really realize a lot of that stuff as you're going through it. But yeah, so you go back to what you're saying, is that it's that inner self voice that eventually, if you have the right people around you and you have the right spiritual plane, you know, mine being God, obviously, that was one of my biggest helpful techniques of beating alcohol, actually, was to enter a men's group through my church. That was a small group, and I was the youngest. And so here I am with older men that are trying to quit drinking, you know, being amazed that I'm so young doing it. And they never wanted to be that guy that, yeah, here I am young trying to do it. And then I go back, and then I'm the old guy talking to the young guy, you know, because I'm still drinking. So I always had those, like, intuitions and experiences in life where I'd be in a moment like that and be like, I would see it that way. I would see like, here I am. They're being thankful that I'm admitting to my, my alcoholism at such a young age, because I have such a great future ahead of me now to be able to get rid of this bad habit. And because they're in their 60s and 70s and still struggling. I never would want all of a sudden that I was given that amazing advice and reality, and that I ignore it because of my ego and my pride. Because that's really what it comes down to. That's what I learned through my men's group and through my sharpening my relationship with God. And because we're men, you look at the Bible, men are supposed to be leaders. We're the mantle of our home. We're the protector. These are things that we're not even taught anymore in this world. People want to use religion as a way to segregate. But these are morals at the end of the day. It's not just about religion and Bible and God and Jesus. It's morals. It's true. You take any house, you take a man and make him lead his family in a really good way. I guarantee nothing bad will happen. You know what I mean? When a man is the leader of his family, it's a trickle effect. It makes his wife feel secure. The kids see the wife secure and the dad happy. It trickles down. Everyone else is happy. And so, but it does start with the leader. And we were put on this earth to be leaders. Men,
for you and I, we learned toxic masculinity at first, and
exactly.
If we were taught, it was just an indirect.
I'm losing my voice. I apologize if I'm losing my voice.
Right. But I feel like you and I have been really forged through some fires, and that and a lot of, kind of like I always tell people, I'm like, I'm an after the fact learner. I do everything wrong, then I'm like, okay, it's not that way. It must be the opposite way.
Yeah. That's true.
But
it is something. I have two sons that are 8, identical twin boys, and I have another son who's 18, and I love raising leaders, and I more so now because I see the way society is right now, and we're not building leaders anymore. I truly believe that, and it's very sad because that is a very powerful tool, and in a healthy way, not an arrogant way, not an egotistical way, but in a really good moral, wrapped around the right morals. And that's what it comes down to, is when you're doing things out of your heart for the goodness of other people, not expecting anything back, which we call unconditional love. At the end of the day, you get back so much more. And a lot of people don't taste that because they don't do that. They don't get to taste that. It's like my experience of being a stepdad to 5 children for 15 years. I can't tell you all the love that I put into them. What I get back is unbelievable. It doesn't even compare to my own children sometimes, because they're just so thankful. They're so thankful, of the fact they still have their struggles, obviously, as well, different struggles because of having different parents and sometimes not a relationship with their biological father. But the love that they show me is incredible because the love that I gave to them. And so I think we forget about that sometimes, and how that tool relates to so many things in life, whether it's being a dad, or being a coach, or being a business owner, being a husband. It's like we sometimes need to it comes down to being humble. That's what I've learned through the years.
That's what I've experienced in the last 4 years of the sobriety. You've really kind of mined the wisdom of like, I need to be fully resourced. I need to be a man on purpose. I have to be clear about my vision so that I can lead my team, my family. They need me to show up and provide the safe container. And that's when it got really clear for you that this had to be removed from your life.
Exactly. And the amount of fog that the alcohol created in my lifestyle, when I look at it now, is definitely preventing me from growing. So to me that's big, because I love the idea that we have in this lifetime to be able to better ourselves and to become better. And as we get older, that's what should be happening. We should be getting wiser, smarter, better, happier, because if you learn from your mistakes is what brings us down. We won't make them anymore. So we should be happier, because we're getting rid of luggage that really shouldn't be part of our life anymore. And that's like a live and learn experience. And I love that philosophy. And I want 100% believe in it, that it's a big part of happiness and humbleness so that when you come across anything in your life, you're able to tackle it with the right mindset.
Yeah, I do sweat lodges every so often, either maybe once every couple of months. And one of the things they say is when you go into the sweat lodge, you leave your shit at the door and you go into the mother's womb and you kind of go through this whole new birthing process. And then when you leave,
we don't do well with we don't do well with toxins in general, right?
Yeah.
Mentally, physically.
Yeah, and so like
that's the truth.
But the challenges, that I've learned for myself has also been not picking up these toxins. So like the challenges when you climb out of this thing is not to pick up your shit.
Exactly.
Like you're in a new way. And for me, some toxic relationships growing up, the family dynamic, showed up in my main relationship. I was in a 13-year relationship, and it's like those things, even though you maybe move away from them and say you're done with them and that's not you, they show up still. There's still these entanglements of these, as you probably experience with yourself with alcohol. It's like these things are like, until you like turn towards them and shine a bright flashlight on them and get, build, the relationship with them, so you understand what's driving that, so you can let these things go.
It is, and I think ego and pride for men are the two culprits that prevent them from accepting defeat with something. Because it's like a catch-22. Like, you want to be a leader, but you have to accept defeat to be a leader. So it's not a way sometimes for that we're brought up as men.
I love how you mentioned that right now, because that for me was the part. It was like I was like the Navy SEAL fighting the good fight, and really everyone's like, everything around me was saying surrender.
Yes.
Let go. You've been holding on tightly for all this
Yes.
time. Let go of this thing that's not.
And that's where that whole piece of prayer, and spirituality comes into, which is a big part of it. That's a big part of it as well, is that connection we have to a higher power, because that cleanses your body, and it's an unexplained thing, because it is unexplained, because we don't know what it is yet. It's something we're searching for, but anybody that has been part of a community that's closely knit and is God as the leader thrives in life and thrives in family. And so, I mean, you've probably experienced that too. I've experienced that too. And sometimes we get so busy with life, we forget it. But when you sit down and you have an intimate prayer with anybody in a group, it does something to you that only happens in that moment. And I think in life we don't do enough of that. Even myself, I remember learning in my men's group. And it's true, because we're brought up certain ways too, right? I was brought up 100% Catholic, but some of these ways that I'm being forced to be a leader, I wasn't taught, and so I'm doing it all on my own. But for instance, I'll never forget, because I'm the type of person, if I hear something that makes sense, I'm like, oh shoot, I should be doing that. And this was one where I was at one of my men's group, and I said, Alex, do you ever grab your wife's hand in the morning and just pray for her? And I'm like, we think of that, it sounds so simple, right? But try it. It's not simple, because you don't know what that morning's going to be like. You don't know how you're going to feel about your wife that morning when that dawns on you. And it's a perfect example. Sometimes we got to put that ego aside. And that's a perfect example, because when you're reaching your hand out to somebody that you love, and it's almost like, take away religion and just the fact that you're just lifting them up for a second, and you want their day to be amazing, and you're taking that time wholeheartedly to do it. It's sometimes not an easy thing to do, but with practice, you do it more and more, it becomes natural, right? And that's kind of how everything can be in life, if we opened up the doors that way to doing things. And a lot of that philosophy I'm talking about is what makes me successful in my nutrition career, because that's how I teach with nutrition. I get people connected with their lifestyle and their food and what's important to them, and and why they're here and why they failed in the past, and make them realize that I got all the tools that's going to make them succeed. But at the same time, with that kind of philosophy of really being open-minded and ready to be positive and be good leaders in their own life, male or female. I mean, it's phenomenal female leaders. I'm married to one. It's incredible how women have stepped up over the decades to be incredible leaders. So it doesn't have to do just with men.
Well, tell us a little bit about your business now. I know you're in Texas and everything, and I know you've got, I'm sure at one point you had every single kid in the kitchen. You know, and
Why not? Why not? They want to be. The funny part is, right? The kids want to be in the kitchen. They love what I do because I love what I do. It's like you'd always have parents say, "How do you teach your kids nutrition?" You know what? Live it, be it, and they just want to be like you. If you're forcing some kid to do something, and you're doing something unhealthy. How's that going to teach them? How's that going to work? You know, it doesn't work. You know, so if you live what you teach and you make cooking fun and you associate food to ailments and you know, like for instance, my kids at 8 years old, they'll know when they eat something bad because they feel like shit.
right.
Like literally, they know they're totally connected to how food makes their body feel, which is something that was taught just from learning the education of nutrition, that there's a group of foods that are good for you and there's a bigger group of foods that are bad for you. You can choose the bad ones if you want. That's what I tell my kids when since they're 3 years old, in the back of the car. Every time they, you know, you pass McDonald's, unfortunately it's the busiest restaurant on the street. Hey daddy, why is everybody going to this place over here? Oh, so they want cancer. They're going to get cancer. That's what I told them, because that's really what eventually it's going to give you.
Right.
You know, cancer is a huge disease that we act like we don't know what it is and we can't control, but we can. You know, there's so many things that cause cancer, and that's the problem. And what's the biggest habit people do is eating. Between eating and cosmetics are the two highest, you know, concentrations that we can control.
Yeah, now if you think about that, there's, you know, the way nature's set up, just like you pick an apple off of the tree and like, oh, this is set up for me for my digestive system. I'm getting sugars in, I'm getting the roughage in, I'm getting
it's
all
like it's funny you say that, because that's my kids love fruit, and it's not because they love fruit because it's healthy. They love fruit because they know it's in it. They know what it's doing for their body.
They feel their energy and the impact.
Yeah. And then they look at food as healing. That's what I've taught them, is that food is healing, which is it's amazing. I love that.
And why wouldn't food be healing or non-food?
Well, sorry,
be poison.
The right kind of food. The right kind of food's healing. Sorry, not all food, right?
Yeah, I mean, like food is just like, if alcohol can be poisoning because you've manufactured something in a certain dosage, well, why wouldn't non-foods, you know, that are majority of what's in the shelves, in the center aisles of everything,
all the like sugar, like we could talk about how bad sugar is for a whole session. I mean, yeah, and that's the number one addiction in food is sugar. That's sugar and salt are the two addictions that people have with why they choose bad food, because their palate and brain is addicted to a certain level of sodium and a certain level of sugar.
And then, Alex, my experience is that people are addicted to toxicity, whether it's listening to certain music, being around certain people.
Isn't that funny that someone can be addicted to being hungover? That's like, think about it. I'd be like, oh, I can't wait to be hungover. You know, like how it's crazy. It is, and that it's a vicious circle, and you got to somehow get out of it. And I truly believe the antidote is who you surround yourself by. The people you surround you by, your community, your spirituality, and the close friends and the little tidbit conversations you have. You're going to notice, if you really pay attention, that you're going to have the ones that are continue to bring you down, the wrong path, and those are the ones you just have to cut out. That was the hardest part for me, actually. I had certain family members that like to keep the party going. You know, if I had marital issues, I have certain friends that would lift my wife up and me and pray for us. Or I've had friends that, you know, leave her, go find somebody new and party. You know, so you can see.
And then you end up in a men's group. And men's group, in my experience, from leading men's group, being in men's groups for years,
best decision I ever made was
because you're getting a reflection of, hey,
it's iron sharpening iron.
Your authentic self is the only thing that's going to survive in this container. Anything
else
else
that I loved about it is that the transparency that a men's group brings is there's nothing like it. It's just true. And sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt what you're saying, because it's like that transparency that happens during it.
Well, you can't even pull off your usual bullshit. Like I found, like when I would go into a men's group, someone asked, how are you doing? I'm like, oh man, I can't wait to say how well, you know, crushing this with business goals and this and that. And I was like, they're like, how you doing, Glenn? I'm like, oh, I'm doing great, man. And I'm ready, you know, to like share all the successes and box check this week. And then he asked again, he's like, how you really doing? And then I checked in with myself. I'm like, you know what?
That's
I
not
think I'm fucked up.
yeah.
I think like, you know what? I don't think things are really that great. I think I'm lying to myself. So I must be lying to you. And I've got some work to do, which is like really looking inward. I mean, that's everything being externally focused for so many years. All of a sudden, it's like,
Well, I think
that's my
because
experience of myself when I'm with you, like being operating
when
that.
you bring God into it, it reminds us that there's an end to all this. I mean, that's what I believe. I think there's a mindset that changes because when you go to men's group, when it's God being the center of it, it reminds us as men that, we're going through this life, but there's an end here. Well, for me anyway, there's a legacy that, that we'll be leaving, or it's even a reality. Yeah, there's more to life than our business and the things that we feel are about ourselves. There's more to it than that. But that for me, that's what I would experience when I look back at some of the times I would have to force myself to go because I didn't want to go at the beginning. My wife was actually the one that got me into it because she bought me a men's retreat that included golfing. So
she found her angle.
She found her. You know what? It was the best thing she ever did.
Oh, yeah.
I grew up Catholic, but this was back in 2014, I think. Mm-hmm. I have a journal. I journal a lot at that moment. I have it when I read it every now and then because it was incredible. It was unexpected. So the men's group that I kind of did a couple times with, some of the guys were also going. So I was able to bond even more with some of these men, and which was great for me because I was really missing that part of my life because I grew up wanting to be this leader. Because I grew up without a father really being there for me as a father figure, like as a spiritual mentor, and my relationship with my dad. Now I kind of had a relationship, but more of a father that's always away kind of relationship, not an intimate father that was teach me right from wrong and about boundaries. My dad had no boundaries. That's part of the fun of his personality that I get to enjoy now. But when you're younger, that kind of personality is not good,
Yeah.
But so a lot of the stuff, I grew up realizing, and I had trust issues with men too because of that. My relationship with my dad, I had big trust issues with men. So it was very hard for me actually to do the men's group because of these internal things for myself.
Yeah, man, go say and be vulnerable and share.
Yeah, very. When I look back, I remember sometimes sitting in my car and I'll go home. I'll just tell the wife I went, but not go in, But because of my love for my wife, I could never be that kind of husband because that's a great part about her and I's relationship. We're so transparent that I wouldn't have been able to let her down. So yeah, initially she was the fire pistol behind it, but God did his work and made it my own.
I love how who you are and how you step into that fire. And it almost reminds me of when I first started back in the fitness industry. I would open up this club. I don't know, it was like 4 or 5 in the morning, and this one old timer I used to think this was pretty brilliant at the time. But this one old timer would come through the turnstile and he would disappear. And then about 10 minutes later, he'd go out the other turnstile. Finally, one day I asked him like what he was up to. He's like, well, I promised my wife that I would go to the gym every day. So I go to the gym, I walk the gym, and then I go meet my buddy outside for coffee and breakfast. And lying to yourself is often like unsaid. It's unsaid.
And it catches up to you. Like a lot of times these people in these moments like you're describing, and that can correlate to a lot of different people's moments. That kind of that example you're giving it catches up to you eventually.
Catches up to you.
Just like a bad habit.
You're stuck in that reality.
Or you're stuck in it. Yeah. There's no growth. There's no growth in that reality, and there's so much. I think that's why you're so passionate too, what you do and why you've moved so many people's lives is that when you live and go through those growths and you feel them, it's like you want other people to feel that too. It's because it's a great feeling.
Suffer as much as you had. Like maybe through my suffering, I can be an access point for you to figure some of these things out earlier. I always love to work with someone who's younger than me and be like, oh, they're getting this now.
Yeah.
Like I just saved them like 5 years of hell. So.
Exactly. Well, then that's what used to like when the basis statistics of weight loss, learning like how many years we take off our lives by being overweight. You know, as mammals, we're not meant to be overweight. Like if you're 10 pounds overweight, I think it takes 5 years off your life. You're 20 pounds overweight. So like, to me, when I learned that very young, I'm like, this shouldn't be part of even the equation of life. You know, like we shouldn't be allowing all these unhealthy companies and bad lifestyle and poor choices to control the destiny of our body that way. And so that's what motivates me too, to really get out there and help people. And it is this lack of education. I've been doing this for 20 years. I mean, my philosophy and teaching hasn't changed in 20 years. Nothing's that, you know, I'm just better at what I do, you know, but it's still the same science and the same philosophy. And people are looking for the same thing. It just goes to show you that, you know, how many diets that are created, how many products are created, you know, it comes down to the habits and outlook and philosophy and the way we look at food and exercise and the way we look at ourselves through food and exercise, you know, is the bigger picture.
I think this is a great time to wrap up this call and emphasize what you're doing in the world, where you're at, how people would get a hold of you, just to even look you up and find out about your messaging in the world. Because like I said, you've had a tremendous impact. You know, our friendship has
no, and I unfortunately I've been busier than I would like to be behind the scenes, and I wish I was in the public more, because anyone that usually sits with me for an hour is like, where's your book, where can I buy it? So yeah, I'm excited because I am starting to do more stuff like that. I started doing some stuff on TikTok, even, you know, with Instagram videos and stuff like that. I am gonna hopefully publish a book soon. It'll be on the philosophy of nutrition through all my years of work and experience of
great.
From the professional athlete to the mom, to the cancer patient, to every walks of life I've worked with. And so my whole philosophy and what I have today is that customized approach that I started years ago. Is every individual is his own, and I don't believe one program is for everybody. I believe it's important to identify someone one-on-one and to create and construct the right program. And what I do now, because I saw early on that I couldn't do both the personal training and nutrition, and realized that nutrition was what was missing in our world, I concentrate just on that part of it. And I work with people, you know, like you and other trainers that can refer their clients to me. But this point now, yeah, we're a happy family-owned business here in Texas, and I offer custom macro meals, you know. So we all know that, and you know, everybody I talk to that's trying to be healthy is their biggest obstacle is half the week is good and half the week is bad. So they break even when it comes to food. And it's because of convenience, because they don't have the right tools in their pantry and they don't have the right tools in their fridge. So that's what the Nutrition Chef does, is I end up creating customized meals, you know, to them, so that they can be more consistent, so that every week if they're exercising, especially if they're exercising, even if you're not exercising, you eat well, you're going to be healthier. But I always tell them, you're putting all this work in, you know, why not want to see some results from it? You know, why not?
You want to see the best.
And,
I mean, for me, I want to see the best results possible.
And so
all that hard work.
Exactly. So, and you don't want to be the half the week is good and half the week is bad, and break even, or even sum it up even better, 1 meal a day is good and 3 meals a day are bad. It's not going to work that way. You know,
this isn't just safe for your elite, like you work with a lot of famous quarterbacks and athletic teams, and you've done
because my program is so scientific. The reason why I love working with athletes, and always have, is my program is so precise and so personalized that when you get someone, like Drew Brees, or you know, someone like really exercising and trained. That was the part I fell in love with when I first presented my program to an athlete. Is like, you plug the Nutrition Chef program in with the way that they were training, and it was like
races,
unbelievable. I'll never forget when I started doing follow-up body fat testing for some of these athletes after doing my program. It was unbelievable. It was the first time ever in their career they were able to lose fat and gain muscle at the same time, which is one of the hardest sciences to do. You know, and getting off pain medication because of the inflammation going down from eating better. So, you know, because a lot of these athletes are eating, you know, Popeyes, you know, chicken.
Yeah, they're compounding their injuries with
they're so stressed. It's a stressful job that it's stress eating. You know, it's an addiction to satisfy their stress, and a habit too. A lot of them are from Texas. You know, I'm dealing with a lot out here in Texas, getting people healthy. I came out here at a great time. People are really looking to be healthy out here in Texas. Even though California will
get rid of that unnecessary inflammation in their body.
Yeah, but you can see there's a lot of fried food in Texas. you know, and so it's great to get away from that because we are not meant to be eating fried food. You know, even once in a while, I mean, you get to the point where, as I do as I'm older, my wife and I don't even like to eat out anymore, even if it's healthy, because the levels of sodium in food is just outrageous.
I mean, you feel it afterwards. You go out and eat, you feel
Yeah,
it
yeah.
afterwards. Yeah.
Well, it's funny because more and more people we're getting now, because the baby boomers are getting older, is like everyone's looking at their sodium levels more and more. And, you know, we're not meant to eat the salt that's out there. I mean, salt, the word salt comes from the Greek word salary, because salt used to be like money. We pay, it was that valuable, it was worth, people would be paid in salt. It was never supposed to be sprinkle, dash on food ever. You know, that happened because of the way it's an addiction, and it's a preservative, obviously, for a lot of packaged foods. But yeah, it's ridiculous because I mean, the average American is getting like 8,000 milligrams, 5,000 to 8,000. You shouldn't get more than 2,000 a day. I mean, it's outrageous.
I mean, how can Americans not look and feel like shit if you eat too much soy,
well, that's where,
too much salt,
that's where the
too much
adrenaline,
sugar.
that's where the ego and adrenaline takes over. But this is where hypertension, high blood pressure, heart attacks are so high in America, because you can run that train as long as you think you can, but it's going to crash with that kind of stuff going through your system. So, and that's what I'm here for. I'm here to fix that, but in a good way, because my food tastes great too. I can't forget that. That's what makes it the biggest success.
How would people find you? Where would they go to look you up?
Yeah, the nutritionchef.com, you know, www.nutritionchef.com.
Red shirt. That's how they find me.
Right here. Hopefully it's spelled right. It's mirrored. I think it's mirrored properly, right?
Yeah, it looks right. Yeah, I can read it.
Yeah, the nutritionchef.com. And on a lot of, if you Google my name, the Nutrition Chef, a lot of great segments on NBC, Fox News.
Yeah, you've been Texas on all the news channels. Yeah, there's always some.
There's an expert. They want an expert with. Yeah, I did some recent ones on plant-based eating. So anybody that's really excited, I'm introducing. I don't, want to force 100% plant-based on people, but if you can just get some good plant stuff going in your diet to balance out the meat, it's a good thing.
Alex, I just want to say thank you for being here today, sharing, being vulnerable, sharing your story. I know there's no other way you can be other than who you are.
I know.
I've always known you to be the person who's just like, this is how it is. So this is one. Well,
I have a stronger filter now, being married to a strong Ecuadorian Latina for 16 years almost. So.
True.
But yes, that is me. I really have no other way but being transparent, because whenever I meet anybody, I want them to know the real me.
Yeah. Well, I just appreciate you and being on the journey with you, brother. And this is just an invitation for another segment, because you and I could shoot the shit for hours.
I know.
but
you know what? Thank you for having me on. Thank you for having me on, Glenn. And I wish you and what you're doing all the success, because I already know it's gonna be that way anyway, because there's no other way with you. But I love being part of it, and I appreciate being here with you. Spend this time.
All right. Well, I appreciate you too, brother. And thank you everybody for listening. Hopefully learned a few things about yourself and are inspired, and just, check out what Alex is about. There might be a few more things available to continue from this conversation with them. So, and if you need anything,
Awesome.
So, all right. Thank you, everybody.